A very good morning, everyone. Welcome to StudyIQ English. Welcome to the Hindu News Analysis session today, where you and I will be discussing the UPSC relevant articles from today's Hindu newspaper. And yes, we shall be looking at the New Delhi edition. So for today, that's 29th October 2025. We have about 9 articles that are important, while the first three are taken from the editorial page, that's page number 6. Now, everybody knows that we always start from the editorial segment. The articles here are lengthy, but they give us wonderful data and good conceptual clarity for the mains answer writing. And this is followed by the quick news events that are now creating the headlines around the world from India itself also. So let's quickly see the first article. This is page number 6. And as I had mentioned last time, I am apologetic that I will not be able to engage in a live chat session today. But tomorrow we will be back to our same way of operating. You and I shall be talking, discussing, and I will consistently keep taking comments tomorrow. So just for today, thank you so much for your kind cooperation. And now the first article, page number 6, editorial, Rethinking Immigration in the Age of Exclusion. The writer of this article is talking about how today immigration has become a criminalized activity. Countries of the global north, particularly America, ever since President Trump has announced his America First policy, the anti-immigration attitude, it looks like immigrating inside America is not about seeking opportunity. It's not about seeking your personal growth, welfare. It has become an agenda that is absolutely considered criminal, political minded. A huge insecurity has been created among the local people that it is the immigrants from outside who are going to snatch away your economic prospects. And this is very paradoxical, given the fact that America's economy today is only a result of immigrant hard work. Majority of doctors, engineers, scientists, research workers are all coming from India and South Asia. They have made America the largest economy of the world today. And yet, the protectionism, the insecurity, the racial superiority theory predominates America right now in 2025. Some very good examples in this regard can be the recent policy of President Trump in announcing the H-1B visa one-time fee hike. At the same time, sealing borders with Mexico, creating high walls, a very, very hatred-oriented sentiment towards people who are the immigrants. That's what the article broadly talks about. So we can definitely say this is GS paper 2, international relations, foreign policy. The author says that when Columbus, back in 1492, had reached the Bahamas, he discovered the Americas. It was celebrated in the world as a discovery of a new world, of a new hemisphere altogether. That time, people did not realize that all this was nothing to be celebrated. It is only the beginning of colonialism, genocide, ethnic cleansing, beginning of conquest age. Radical capitalism is now going to dominate the world. In America, indigenous civilizations like the Mayans, the Incas, the Arawaks, all of them were destroyed. They were racially cleansed out, decimated absolutely, which means completely removed. Through conquest, slavery, indentured labor. Their religious practices, their languages and dialects, their customs and traditions, their way of agriculture, everything was replaced by a modern, a very shrewd kind of capitalism, a factory-based system which captured the local people as slaves and as bonded labor. Their knowledge of environment, all of that was removed by colonialism. The spiritual heritage also disappeared slowly. This exploitation of America gave birth to the Atlantic capitalism, a system that was based on slavery, extraction, resource hunger, plantation agriculture. All this changed completely the life and the lifestyle of local communities. Therefore, migration under colonialism was not a voluntary movement. Back then, when Europe used to believe that there is no sunset ever happening in the British Raj. And as countries of the Europe kept on colonizing various local cultures, it was believed that migration at that time was not something people would do happily. It was something people were being forced to do. Why? Because of slavery. It was not a movement you do happily, but a forced displacement of enslaved African workers, indentured labor across the globe. I mean, look at British government in India. How many Indian workers, Indian agricultural labor were transported to various islands? Suriname is one such place. Fiji Islands are another, where people were taken for enslavement, bonded labor, commercial agriculture, plantation based agriculture. So it was never a voluntary movement. Today, if you talk about in 2025, after President Trump came to the power in his second wave of presidency, we see that the policies under President Trump are once again about a very colonial kind of mindset, where America first, interest of Americans are paramount, dehumanizing migrants, creating huge walls. So US, which projected itself as a land of opportunities, as a land of liberty, as a land of freedom, symbolized by the Statue of Liberty. Historically, European migration to other countries was celebrated. It was seen as an act of colonial pride, as an act of imperialism, as an act of European superiority, the white man's race, superior, much more superior to the native cultures. Today, the same attitude of migration is being seen with hatred and contempt. The only difference is that earlier, the migrants used to be the Europeans and the Americans. They were celebrated as colonizers, as people who would be on a civilizing mission. They will civilize the people of the global south. Imagine in India also the British government would maintain a rhetoric called the white man's burden, where British would believe that it's important for them to educate Indians, to make them more civilized, which they are not. So that kind of a very colonial mindset predominated. But today what has happened, as the people from global south are migrating into countries of Europe, into America, it is seen as a violation of local people's right. It is being looked upon with contempt and utter hatred. So what kind of a hypocrisy is that? That historically European migration was civilization mission. It was a celebrating thing to do. It was exploration. It was discovery. Today, as global south people are migrating, it's being criminalized. Now, under Trump's regime, President Trump's regime, family separations have happened. Children have become orphans. Huge border walls have been created, especially with Mexico. All these symbolize racial nationalism, jingoism. When nationalism becomes too ardent, too colored, too obsessive, it's known as jingoism. And that's what America is doing under President Trump. Now, this is a global crisis because today, as I mentioned to you long back, in 2021, there was a very interesting Oxfam report which said that the modern crisis in the world is because of the 3C phenomena. And who were these 3C? What were these? One, of course, was climate change. The other was the COVID pandemic. The third was civil wars across the world, driven by these two factors majorly: climate change, water scarcity, ongoing civil wars. Yes, there are citizens of places like Syria, Sub-Saharan Africa, Venezuela, other South Asian countries who often migrate into European countries, if not through a legal route, through an illegal route. They migrate not to make the locals insecure. They migrate for better opportunities. They migrate to escape this ongoing crisis of climate plus civil war. But the global north is further making its border more sealed and more secure. It is treating the situation as a moral panicky situation. I mean, Italy was into the same rhetoric last month. No more migration from outside. No more immigration. Now, it's a very interesting thing that all these countries, whether it's America, whether it's Europe, who are today panicking in the name of immigration, are also the same countries who are a result and a product of immigration. After all, these countries have a very, very, especially America, if you see, it has a very, very hybridized population. It is not about Native American. It's about people who were outsiders and today they have settled in America for generations. The same country today is showing a moral paradox. Progress of yesterday has become a security threat of the modern time. Today, migration is seen as an attempt to drive away local culture, take away local jobs, destroy the law and order situation in these countries. But a very interesting question this article is asking, therefore, it is also quite relevant for GS paper for ethics. Because in the ethics paper, it's likely you may get a question on the moral impact or the moral aspects of the new anti-immigration sentiment that has come up in US and Europe. Is it valid to treat immigrants as criminals or as people who are intruders? The article makes a very beautiful moral note. It says migration should not be seen as a security threat. It should be seen as an individual who is just being driven by a universal need, a universal human need, and an aspiration towards survival, towards a better life. Now, this also brings into picture the recent move of America by hiking the H-1B visa fee. The American president, Mr. Trump, saying that America will not now export AI fabrication sensitive technology to many countries, and that included India. The tariff war, the high rates of tariff being imposed on countries like India, Brazil. Now, all of these show that he's totally on a very, very radically nationalistic mission. It may have repercussions because today the world is a very globalized place. Going back completely towards an anti-globalization rhetoric, hating people who come from outside may have repercussions for American economy also, and it also doesn't justify so many protocols that are a part of UN, WTO, IMF, ICJ. So fundamentally, we are also trying to negate the value of global institutions by saying that no, we will not tolerate any immigration. It's too late for that. So that's what the article is saying. Migration can be systematically addressed. Migration shouldn't be hated upon as a security threat. Quickly, the question with reference to the legacy of European colonization and its impact on modern migration. Consider the following statements. 1. The doctrine of discovery, which legitimized European claims over non-Christian lands, laid the ideological foundations of settler colonialism. Second, the arrival of Columbus in America led to large-scale destruction of indigenous cultures, languages, and knowledge systems. And 3, the modern portrayal of immigration as a security threat in the global north reflects historical continuities in what? Racial hierarchy and exclusion that's rooted in colonial expansion. So which of these statements do you think is valid, are valid? It's an easy question. You can ratify the answer from the last slide here. We can discuss it tomorrow if you want. Second article also, editorial page number 6. Missed opportunity. Yes, we are talking about the ASEAN, Association of Southeast Asian Nations. Recently, ASEAN had its summit, a summit that was held in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. It was a milestone summit, yes. One, because it was because of this summit that ASEAN became from a 10-member organization to an 11-member body, with East Timor becoming the latest and the 11th member. Second, during ASEAN, although Indian Prime Minister Shri Modi attended the summit virtually, he couldn't go there because he said there are indigenous commitments right now. The Diwali festival is just over. Bihar election is coming. Owing to that, he couldn't physically be there, but he was there virtually. The summit was attended by our External Affairs Minister Shri Jaishankar. There was a massive announcement in the summit that 2026 is going to be the year of India-ASEAN maritime cooperation. Cooperation across security, blue economy, and more cooperation in trade in the Indo-Pacific area. The overall stability and security of the Indo-Pacific was the agenda. 2026 will be the year of India-ASEAN maritime cooperation. So these were two milestones here. But this article says since 1995, India became a full dialogue partner of the ASEAN. And in 2002, India's status in ASEAN was upgraded to a summit level partner. So therefore, ASEAN is very important for us. Also because it highlights India's Act East and Look East policy. Today, as Indian Prime Minister could not be physically present in ASEAN, it is being considered as a missed opportunity. As leaders of other countries like China, Japan, Australia, they were all present in the summit. Our Prime Minister not being there perhaps could have given a symbolic signal that India is not as invested in ASEAN as it claims to be. That's what the article says, missed opportunity. Now, the article also says that ASEAN is an organization that ensures peace, stability, economic growth in the Indo-Pacific region. That's the purpose of ASEAN. India became a sectoral dialogue partner in 1992. Post that in 1995, India became a full dialogue partner. Since 2002, a summit level partner is what India is to ASEAN. That means we have only upgraded our engagement with ASEAN. I agree that in 2019, India refused to be a part of the RCEP Free Trade Agreement, the Regional Cooperation Economic Partnership. Why? Because India was constantly experiencing a negative trade balance. We experienced a huge loss of trade volume, trade benefit in the dairy sector particularly. So India did not follow that. India walked out of that. But today, after President Trump's tariff attack, India is once again trying to renegotiate its trade engagements with RCEP. Besides that, the summits that India has with ASEAN are not just about diplomatic rituals. They are about India having an opportunity to engage collectively in the South and the Southeast Asia. For example, the East Asia Summit with major powers like US, Russia, China, Japan, Australia. So the East Asia Summit, a very, very important event for India, a very crucial event which improves India's footprint in the Indo-Pacific also. Now, apart from that, India's relationship with Southeast Asia goes back to about 2000 years, not only in the form of Buddhism cultural exchange, in the form of trade, in the form of various other linguistic, cultural, bipartisan exchanges that India has had with these countries. Now, ASEAN as a bloc is also India's fourth largest trading partner after US, China, and European Union. If you look at the data numbers, then the trade between India and ASEAN touched about $130 billion only in 2024. That's a very high volume of trade. At the same time, ASEAN is very, very strategically located at the crossroad of Indo-Pacific. So participation in ASEAN only means India has a much stronger presence in maritime sector. It is closely associated with maritime crucial routes like the Strait of Malacca. And recently, Strait of Malacca, situated between Malay Peninsula and Indonesia, was a place where India has shown keen interest. India says, even I want to patrol the Strait of Malacca. Why? Because it's a very crucial choke point for all the trade that comes to China, to South Asia from the West. So right now, India's footprint will only expand. At the same time, strategic partnership with ASEAN is crucial also for energy security and trade. Today, India aspires to become a stakeholder in regional security. For example, Great Nicobar Project. For example, requesting Myanmar Janta to allow India to inspect the Coco Island. For example, India's desire to patrol and monitor Strait of Malacca, and 2025 ASEAN is a very important event. It was. So as our External Affairs Minister, Sri Jai Shankar, was a member of the mission, our Prime Minister for the second consecutive time could not be present. In 2022 also he was not there. In 2025 also it became a missed opportunity. This is being seen as the missed opportunity that the article is mentioning. Now, India and ASEAN are also two countries who have key economic initiatives with each other. For example, if you look at energy market, Then today the global situation is very stressed out. US tariff war, West Asia instability. Today, once again, Prime Minister of Israel, President Netanyahu, has asked his troops to continue to attack the West Gaza. He says Hamas has not respected the negotiation and the peace process. You see what's going on. West Asia crisis is ongoing. Russia-Ukraine war fully not settled. In this backdrop, maritime cooperation in Indo-Pacific is very important because of China's expansion and China's monopoly in South China Sea. That's again a key agenda. So China, Japan, Australia, all the leadership was present in person, and India not being physically present in the form of top leadership could mean an impact to ASEAN-led multilateralism. Let's remember in 2017, it was on the sidelines of the ASEAN summit that the quadrilateral dialogue, the Quad, was also revived between India, Japan, US, and Australia. So, from next time onwards, it's a strong plea that India's top leadership be there in the summit because this will only amplify, increase India's role, a credible, a trustable voice of the global south, a bridge between east and the west. So that's what the article says. So for the UPSC exam, do remember the key takeaways. 2026 Maritime Cooperation India ASEAN, the total bilateral trade $130 billion 2024. Do remember the East Asia Summit. Do remember about the Strait of Malacca, India's improving footprint in the Indo-Pacific. That's all for this article. Question: with reference to India's engagement with ASEAN, look at the following statements. 1. India became a full dialogue partner of ASEAN in 1995 and it was upgraded to summit level partner in 2002. Second, the ASEAN-India Trade in Goods Agreement, AITIGA, aims to enhance trade liberalization between India and ASEAN and is currently under review for modernization. And 3, the principle of ASEAN centrality refers to ASEAN's leading role in regional cooperation and decision making within Indo-Pacific. So which of these statements are valid? You can post your answer. We can discuss it if you wish so. Now, next article is about relief and rehabilitation, and I'm sure all of you know that we are talking about this only because of the new cyclone that's brewing up in Andhra Pradesh and impacting the state of Odisha as well. So now we are talking about how historically in India, it is the month of October and the month of November that marks the period when Bay of Bengal experiences devastating cyclones. 12 such cyclones have happened in the 18th century to 20th century. 9 were recorded within the last 3 months. Imagine 9 cyclones in just these few months. These include severe cyclonic pressure. And typically, where do they hit? Andhra Pradesh, the coast of Odisha. Right now, as we are bracing up, as the very fearful cyclone Montha has made its landfall today itself, it made its landfall last night and today morning, we are just looking at how much improvement has come in early warning system, in rescue and rehabilitation, and what more can be done to make sure that while we cannot every time control cyclonic depressions from developing in the Bay of Bengal in the winter months, at least we can do early evacuation and safety protocols. Okay, now let's remember that the toll, how many people died in these cyclones, whether it was about 1977 super cyclone in the coast of Odisha or whether it was about the 1999 October cyclone. The total human toll was about 10,000 in each of these, according to an estimate of Indian Meteorological Department. So it means that if you look at all these devastating cyclones, it only makes sense that our disaster management and early warning systems have to work very strongly and in coordination. So why? Because India's east coast, bordering the Bay of Bengal, is one of the most cyclonic prone regions of the world. November, October, Bay of Bengal experiences post-monsoon season. The water is warm. It's a perfect situation for cyclone formation. 1977, in the Nizampatnam cyclone, Andhra Pradesh, 10,000 people died. Odisha cyclone 1999, Paradeep coast, 10,000 people again died. The east coast is highly vulnerable. Not only leads to disaster burden, innocent people lose their life, infrastructural damage. Today, we do talk about sophisticated, advanced, modern satellite based, AI based early warning systems. But look at today also. As Cyclone Montha started becoming more and more strong in the last few days, people genuinely believe that no matter how strong your early warning system is, ultimately the solution is community participation, a very thorough coordination between center and state disaster management authorities. That's the only solution. Because no matter how much you predict, you cannot exactly know the devastating extent of a given cyclone. Similarly, there was Cyclone Gaj, 2018 Tamil Nadu. Although we could control the number of deaths because we were prepared for it. There were so many animal deaths, cattle death, livelihood loss for the people. So although we are saving lives, but at the same time, there is extreme poverty, disease, and displacement that accompanies each of these cyclones. So now if you do a quick comparison between Bay of Bengal and the Arabian Sea, we realize that the Bay of Bengal is more shallow. Water is warmer, ocean currents are warmer. More enclosed area, more surrounded area than Arabian Sea. Hence, it experiences more frequent, more strong cyclones. Strong southwest and northeast monsoons, the air forces combine. High sea surface temperature, perfect situation for cyclone to develop in the post southwest monsoon months in India. That's immediately after September, the months of October, November, the pre-winter months. Coastal Andhra Pradesh, especially areas like Vishakhapatnam, Anakapalli, Srikakulam, all these, Kakinada, all these are highly vulnerable. If you talk about coastal Odisha, very vulnerable again, Gajpati, Ganjam areas. Tamil Nadu also keeps experiencing such cyclonic conditions, but they are more common towards November and December because we all know that Tamil Nadu experiences retreating monsoon, the winter rainfall. Now, poor, underprivileged communities always are the worst hit. Because no matter how much you predict a cyclone's pattern and landfall pattern, ultimately the displacement takes a toll on the livelihood of those who are already poor. For example, the fishing community, the agriculture-based community, the farmers, the agriculture labor, animal rearers, the livestock maintainers, they are the ones who are particularly impacted because their infrastructure, their livelihood goes for a toss. The government of India does take structural measures like providing shelters, timely evacuation. This time also so many children and pregnant women were evacuated and shifted to another far away government hospital. Yes, the government does use satellite data, remote sensing, tries to predict the cyclones early, but we need more non-structural measures. All these are the structural measures. Being prepared, early warning, use of artificial intelligence, satellite data mapping. That's very good. That's the need of the hour. But at the same time, we also need non-structural measures like community awareness programs. Based on more utilization of local resources like self-help groups. They can also assist people in evacuation and livelihood restoration. Then training of local authorities and volunteers who can supplement the disaster mitigation forces. We need a stronger coordination between center and state disaster management authorities. Okay, and a much stricter implementation of the National Disaster Management Authority protocols. Effective disaster governance also means timely data sharing, timely coordination, regular communication, a political will by the government, community participation, local people being more and more involved. Quite like in the case of 2004 tsunami, where so many tribes from Andaman, Jarawa, Shompeni, Onjis, all these people were able to take preventive action and escape the site in groups because they could predict on the basis of their traditional wisdom that something doesn't seem correct. At that time, we lagged and tsunami early warning system, but community action was still able to save so many lives. So today, if we supplement community awareness, traditional knowledge, tribal knowledge programs, local level resource, then definitely many more lives will be saved. Now, question: with reference to cyclones and disaster management on the east coast, consider the following statements. 1. Bay of Bengal is more cyclone prone than Arabian Sea, especially during October, November. 2. Non-structural measures of disaster preparation include community awareness programs and training of local authorities. And 3. Cyclone-induced human casualties, deaths in India have remained as high in 1970s and 90s despite improved early warning system. Slightly tricky with regards to the third statement. So which of these statements are valid? You can let me know here. Now, the next article is a quick read. It's about HAL. Hindustan Aeronautics Limited has signed a pact. It has signed a memorandum of understanding with Russian company called United Aircraft Corporation. So HAL has signed an MOU, Memorandum of Understanding with UAC. Russia's, what is that? It is Russia's United Aircraft Corporation Limited. And what is the deal all about? The deal is about production of civil commuter aircraft called SJ-100. Procuring this Russian aircraft in the civil aviation sector will subsidize the flying cost in India itself. A key agenda under UDAN. UDAN, Indian scheme called Ude Desh Ka Aam Nagrik, to make airfares affordable for the people. Hence, the HAL says, the Hindustan Aeronautics Limited says, acquisition of all these SJ-100 commuter aircraft systems will only enable better short-haul connectivity in India. All this is under the UDAN scheme itself. The collaboration is a result of mutual trust between India and Russia's aviation sectors, and it has been also said that the manufacturing of SJ-100 aircraft marks a new milestone in India's civil aviation sector. It will improve private sector job creations, employment opportunities in the aviation industry as such, and it will also be a game changer in allowing for much smoother, much more affordable short-haul connectivity in India. Quite a mandate under the UDAN scheme. So remember, the Russian company, UAC, and what have we acquired through a memorandum of understanding between HAL and UAC? The short-haul commuter aircraft, civil commuter aircraft SJ-100. Okay, the purpose: when the manufacturing of the components of SJ-100 take place in India, quite envision with Atmanirbhar Bharat. Just like we have procured so many Airbuses from Spain before the NATO exercise Ocean Sky, in which India became the first non-NATO member country to participate. Today also, the manufacturing of SJ-100 will create, like Rafale jets, like the Airbus from Spain, SJ-100 will also enable more job creations for India itself. Okay, so what will happen? It will also add 350 aircraft for Indian Ocean region monitoring, surveillance, security, to connect to more touristic destinations in the Indian Ocean region, IOR. So again, people to people migration, cultural ties will also be enhanced. Now the next article is about United Nations, a disturbing report. GS paper 3, climate change, global warming. United Nations has released a report right at the beginning of COP 30, Conference of Parties 30, that's going to be organized in Belém, Brazil in the coming month. Under this report, this is known as synthesis report, it has been found out that most countries across the world are failing to reduce their carbon footprint. They are not able to achieve their nationally determined contributions. They have only been able to reduce emissions by 17% of 2019 levels. And by 2035 also, they can only reduce 70% of the 2019 level of carbon emission. Not more than that. It is not sufficient to achieve your NDCs. It's not enough. Under the Sustainable Development Goal promise by 2030, it's definitely not enough. Plus, what is required to protect this earth is at least 1.5 degree above the temperature of the pre-industrial level. That was the promise under Paris Agreement 2015, but today it's not happening anymore. Most of the countries should have cut their emissions by 37 to 57% of the 2019 level by 2035, but that is looking very unlikely. As the United Nations has examined the carbon emission NDC commitments of various countries, it says our total carbon capturing rate has not been sufficient. And the report says that India is also among the countries which is still yet to update its NDC. India had submitted its last nationally determined contribution estimation in 2022 August. So yet we are to upgrade that. So that's the United Nations observation that today, despite strategies like afforestation, growing more trees, compensatory for afforestation in India, CAMPA, solar energy transition, most of the countries are falling short of the target. So that is something that needs to be looked into before the Convention of Parties summit in Brazil that's going to happen now. So this also reminds us of India's NDC, reducing carbon emission by 45% of GDP by 2030 under Paris Agreement 2015 and to become carbon neutral by 2070. But today, all this is doubtful, not just for India, but across most of the countries as per the UN report. And now the next article, it's about India as a key observer of developments that are taking place between ASEAN and China. So now battered by the heavy US tariff, 50%, 40%, 30%, high tariffs imposed by President Trump, inspired by that, China and ASEAN have signed a free trade agreement. Now they are upgrading their relationship to a full-blown FTA. And this deal will include digital infrastructure as well as green economy. We all know just recently the Association of Southeast Asian Nations ASEAN was upgraded from a 10-member group to an 11-member group, with East Timor being the latest partner. Let's understand the ASEAN is China's largest trading partner. India's fourth largest? Yes, India's fourth largest. We just spoke about it. ASEAN is India's fourth largest trading partner. For China, it is the largest trading partner. The trade totals $771 billion. That is 2024 data. So China now wants to upgrade it by creating a full-blown free trade agreement. And China is calling this as the 3.0 new version of free trade agreement between ASEAN and itself. As the relationship will be upgraded, another round of FTA will now be soon announced. Okay, so that's the latest development, and it will also enable integration between China's trading with ASEAN into, as I said, digital infrastructure, IT, pharmaceutical, agriculture products. All these and green energy, all these will be at the top of the agenda. Okay, and having said that, quickly about West Asia, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu has ordered the military to keep continuing air strikes on the Gaza Strip. You might be wondering why. Recently, we had the Sharm el-Sheikh summit in Egypt, and a 20-point peace program was finalized, chaired by US President Trump. All the countries were happy. It was believed that both sides will withdraw the troops. Both sides will now create a new Riviera area in the Gaza region, while the Palestinian people and the Israeli people will have their own sovereign rights over a decided territory. Everyone was looking happy, things were hunky-dory, but once again today back to square one. Israel says Hamas has never respected the peace process. It never respected the 20-point peace program. It has broken the United States-led ceasefire. And therefore, Hamas also says that if Israel will continue to violate the truce pact, the peace pact, we will also reply with equal force. So right now, what is happening? The war is still ongoing and there is still a lot of instability in West Asia. The peace process hasn't really paid up as most people were imagining. And now the last article is from Science page, because we are looking into how Himalaya, the young mountains of India, are still developing. They are young and they are a developing ecosystem. But heavy construction, tourism influx, climate change, global warming, deforestation have all led to a great toll on the Himalayan terrain. Not only the land morphology of the Himalaya, constant landslides, soil erosion, but also a danger to the biodiversity of the region, a danger to the thousands of local communities and tribes who depend on this region. All because of climate change and mainly because of anthropogenic, human led climate change. Now, Himalayas are a 2,400 kilometers long range spreading across 12 Indian states and union territories, right? Especially the states that lie on the Shivalik Himalayas, the young Himalayas, are most prone to disasters. Unfortunately, they are also the leading touristic destination for most people in India as well as people globally. Now, if this is a young mountain range, if this is a very tectonically, seismically vulnerable mountain range prone to a lot of earthquakes, we are still facing increasing natural disasters. Glacial lake outburst, flash flooding, repeated cloud bursts, snow melting, avalanches, snowstorms, earthquakes are very common, including landslides and mudslides. Very, very common. Now, recently there was a huge snowstorm in the Tibetan side of Mount Everest. Also, too many flooding in Nepal, just like we experienced in Uttarakhand and Himachal and Sikkim every year. Landslides in Darjeeling. They all show that human and economic development has had its toll. They have had their toll. From 2013 to 2022, 68 natural disasters were reported. 44% of India's total natural disasters can be associated with Himalayas itself. The total global warming that Himalayan range experiences, it's about 0.15 degree to 0.60 degree per decade, per 10 years. This is much faster than the whole average of the world. Much faster global warming. Deforestation, unplanned construction, tourism, huge waste, all that are the causes. Any solution? Yes. Article says let's have a early warning system for Himalaya. If you create an early warning system, we can be well prepared for earthquake, landslide, glacial lake outburst and flooding in advance. Even if we cannot stop them, we can mitigate them. We can work to adapt towards them. We can show resilience towards them, right? So today, Himalaya is a very, very tectonically sensitive region, highly prone to climate change, global warming, and still we lack a proper early warning system. Because we need an early warning system that works 24/7 across the year. Because Himalaya is also very prone to huge weather changes. Season cycles are now getting changed, rainfall patterns are changing. So we can invest in an indigenously created, low cost, affordable early warning system that's weatherproof, and that's the need of the hour. Himalayan Valley specific AI generated, artificial intelligence generated data collection schemes can be imposed here. Local communities can be used to give us knowledge and awareness of climate patterns, rainfall patterns, wind patterns. AI can be used to get data from multiple sources, which can generate some credible, believable early warnings for the upcoming disasters. Similarly, satellite images, satellite monitoring and tracking can be done for glacial outbursts, flooding, large scale observations of landslides that are about to happen in an area that is already experiencing a lot of denudation. Combining local in situ sensors. In situ means on the local spot, in the local spot, inside that. Such sensors can be put. They should be based on AI and machine learning. Collect the previous data. On the basis of that, look at the current changes in land and ecosystem and make predictions for future. Remote sensing for timely alerts, very important. Plus, involving the local communities. Local people are the best judge of weather change, climate phenomena. They are the victims of such strategies. So take their viewpoint also, train them better in showing resilience, adaptation, public support, community health, so that they can work side by side when it comes to rescue operations and mitigation. For example, if you look at China, Central Himalayan region in China has an AI-based early warning system, which is able to predict glacial lake outburst, so that people who are living downstream of the rivers are already informed in advance, and they can get evacuated before any disaster happens. Similarly, in the Swiss Alps, shepherd warned downstream villages. There were so many local shepherds who took the initiative and warned people. They raised an alarm to the villagers who were living in the lower part of the river valley, so that they said that the glacier is going to collapse and hundreds of lives were saved. It shows the beauty of AI sensors plus local knowledge, because early warning system data can be used to create hazard map, vulnerable zones, stopping tourism there, regulating human action there, intensity, frequency of floods. You can plan evacuation, rescue, rehabilitation for people who are living downstream, like in Alps and China. Then creating more mitigation strategies, relief and shelter. Economic development planning in disaster prone areas should be very systematic. It should not be about blind infrastructure expansion. Pretty much like the debate about the Great Nicobar Island and the Naying River Valley project in Arunachal Pradesh that's still going on. So, example can be, you can create a sub-kilometer scale hailstorm alerts. That hailstorms are coming, people could be alerted, especially in orchards area of Uttarakhand. So right now in states like Uttarakhand and Himachal, you do have some early warning systems which inform the farmers that a hailstorm is coming. They are able to protect their crops and life. All that is based on AI that judges with monitors, in situ monitors that measure local atmospheric situations. Something similar can be done for Himalaya also. That's the pitch of the article. And now the last one, 35,000 people evacuated, 43,000 hectares of land submerged. This is the situation right now as cyclone Montha makes a landfall. Now, once again, the IMD has issued an orange alert. Heavy rainfall in many parts of Andhra Pradesh. And what is happening? In Andhra Pradesh especially, maximum days rainfall, 167 millimeters was reported from areas like Kakinada. The rainfall continues to happen right now. Rupees 2,200 crore of power sector loss has been estimated. Massive damage to substations, transformers, power lines. Similarly, 119 trees fell down in Vishakhapatnam. So you see, despite early warning systems, despite having some awareness and operating in advance, this is the amount of loss every disaster brings. So that's why more sophisticated early warning system and stronger cooperation with center and state-based disaster management forces is the only viable solution in India for controlling such tragedies. And that's it for today's articles. Tomorrow, I look forward to a much more interactive session with all of you, where like every day we talk, discuss and have a discussion. Now, for those who are writing exam in 2026, please do spread the word about the ongoing extension of Diwali sale till 31st October. And if anybody is interested, please use code SPLIVE. The price is only 7499 for all GS subjects. Imagine what a great deal it is. So please let people know. And for those who are writing exam in 27 or 28, we again have very affordable sale from 18,000 something to 2028 32,999 only. Enroll today. Take the maximum advantage of mentorship, hands-holding guidance when it comes to your UPSC preparation. And use code SPLIVE for the sale. It's ending on 31st October. If you want to reach out to us directly, fill up a form here in the description box of the video. We will contact you. So thank you so much for being with me. See you tomorrow with a way more interactive session. Thank you.